ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिश्रीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ वृषभं चर्षणीनां विश्वरूपमदाभ्यं बृहस्पतिं वरेण्यम् ॐ तद्विष्णोः परमं पदं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरयः दिवीव चक्षुराततम्। ॐ ऐं ह्रीं श्रीं क्लीं ह्सौः जगत्प्रसूत्यै नमः। Everybody say after me Hare Rama Krishna 3 times. Om Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna. Welcome back. Last week the seminar at Ashavidya Gurukulam in Salisbury that went very well. It was a seminar on financial astrology, and I taught a couple of topics. One topic being the Hora chart, the D2 chart in which we see wealth, financial matters, and the Kartika Shukla Pratipada chart, the New Year chart, which comes sometime in October, November, based on Sun Moon conjunction in the Libra sign. So I talked about stock market predictions based on the particular chart and the compressed dasas. I will go through those things also eventually in our class, but we will go back to Narayana Dasa, the dasa that we discussed for a while, and then we got into some other topics because of the New Year, the Telugu New Year that came. We went into some mundane charts. We did the New Year, the lunar New Year chart, solar New Year charts, and other things. We got a little bit sidetracked, but the topic that we were doing before we started all this was Narayana Dasa. So we will go back to the Narayana Dasa. And before I do that, I just want to read a small prayer that I wrote, and I got an opportunity to read this at the temple. There is a Medha Dakshinamurti temple at the Ashavidya Gurukulam, and we had a panel discussion with a few astrologers. I think 4 or 5 astrologers sat down and discussed how the next year was going to be for US and other countries based on the New Year chart, lunar New Year chart. So before that, I got a chance to read this small prayer. So I will read that prayer here also. This is a prayer written to Shiva. Yeah, this is the one. This is a small prayer written by me a few days back to Shiva on the occasion of going to Salisbury. This basically prays to Shiva, who is at Salisbury, to live in the intellects of astrologers and bless them with wisdom. So even if you don't live in Salisbury, you can read this. Prayer. This is written in Chandas Sardola Vikridam. Ishano Drisutapatir Himaniketastapasabhipsito Vedyo Bhakta Janati Varanaparo Vishveshwarasyankara Sailorsburg Nagare Sthito Gurukule Sri Dakshinesha Shivo Jyotish-shastra Vidam Bhavetya Shubhakrin Medha Sthito Bhiprada. Basically, this is asking Shiva to live in the intelligence, Dakshinamurti to live in the intelligence of astrologers in the world, so that they get wisdom to see the future correctly. Okay, we'll go back to Narayana Dasa. Yes. This is the picture of Shiva, of Lord Dakshinamurti at the temple at Ashavidya Gurukulam. That's the picture. How come we don't see the entire screen?
I think we have that. We should shoot a slide at the bottom of the screen.
For me?
You can take out this.
Yeah, I can click this guy here. No, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is, you don't even see the whole screen.
Can you see it on your thing?
Yeah. See.
Oh.
Part of the screen is cut off. I don't know why.
Okay.
Let me do... Just a second. Give me a second. Okay. Now I don't see it. I think because we had it connected while it was booting up. Probably when it was booting up, the display resolution was something else, so it just got stuck in that resolution. I think we should be all set now. Okay. So we will.
I have a question on Narayan Dasa since you're going back there. I was hearing the old recordings and noticed that the Narayan Dasa is the one that is showing the progression of Narayana, which is showing the place where the efforts are being put into.
Right. Narayan Dasa shows the focus of effort.
Focus of the efforts.
Yeah.
And Sudasa shows the focus of the blessings.
Yeah.
Then we, from whatever we did, from Narayan Dasa also we were saying that the predictions were this is going to happen during this Dasa and so on.
Yeah.
But then it is the effort and it is not the result that we are, why were you seeing the result at the time?
What you are saying is absolutely true. See, when we learn astrology, we say that this factor shows this parameter shows this, and we have that clear distinction. But when we make predictions, many times we are making compromises and trying to see everything in everything. And if we basically did that, that's basically wrong. So your observation is a very keen observation. Ideally, we should not do it. If you look at Narayana Dasa and Sudasa, the focus of Narayana Dasa, it tracks the movement of Narayana in the chart with the progress of time. And Sudasa, it tracks the movement of Lakshmi, the Mahalakshmi in the chart. So that shows the blessing. And Narayana simply shows the effort that you are putting in. What is the focus of your effort? So ideally, we should only be seeing that in the Narayana Dasa. Similarly, if you look at Vimshotri Dasa, the normal Nakshatra Dasa that everybody uses, that basically tracks the experience of the mind. It shows at a given point of time what the mind is experiencing. It's the reaction of the mind. How the mind perceives what is happening around it. It doesn't have to show the reality. Narayana shows what the person is actually doing. Vimshotri shows what the mind is perceiving. And Sudasa shows where the blessings are coming from. So each has a particular focus, but even in Vimshotri Dasa we end up seeing everything. Because there is a link. When there is an effort, probably there is some blessing. Even though there is no direct relationship, there is some relationship. And if somebody perceives that he is in trouble, probably he is in trouble. Or if somebody perceives that he is blessed, maybe he is getting some blessings at that time. So it's not like this. I talked about 3 dasas now, but there are so many other dasas, each having its own focus. Even though everything has its own focus, it's not like there are clear boundaries. Even though I taught you as though there is a clear boundary, the boundaries are really fuzzy. So in other words, there is an overlap between various factors that I mentioned, various dasas that I mentioned. There is an overlap. So if somebody sees everything in Vimshotri Dasa, it's not that he is doing a sin or doing a big error or something, but it's not the ideal thing to do. So sometimes we end up doing less than ideal things in our analysis, and if you catch it right, then I will accept it, and we can do a better analysis. So keep that critical attitude as we do more examples. But that's a very good observation. So constantly we fall into the trap. For example, I say Arudha Padas of houses, they are the tangibles, and houses are the intangibles. The bhava is like the meaning of a word, which is intangible. And Arudha Padas are like padas, the words which are tangibles, which are clear symbols that you can see. If I say the word computer, it's a tangible. The word, everybody understands the word, and we communicate using the word. But what do I mean by computer? What is the meaning I have in my mind? Only I know what meaning I have in my mind. Probably you have a slightly different meaning in your mind when I say that word. Of course, some words are very easy to understand. But when I express some other concepts, the meaning I have in my mind may be different from what my words mean to you. So in other words, bhava, the word used for houses in astrology is bhava, and it means meaning, concept. That's what bhava means. And the word you use for the arudha padas of bhava, that word is pada. The meaning of pada is symbol or a word. Pada simply means a word. So when we communicate with people, we want to communicate the bhava which is in our brain. But there is no way you can directly communicate the bhava. You can only communicate it using padas, because padas are tangible and the whole world can perceive them. When you utter a pada, world understands it. And when you want to express a bhava, there is no way you can express it. It is very internal. Similarly, I taught you that houses are internal. They are intangible. When I say fifth house, the ability of a person, or when I say ninth house, the dharma of a person, there is no tangible manifestation of it. It's intangible. What is my ability? Nobody knows. What is my sukha, my comfort? Fourth house will show comfort. What do you mean by comfort? Again, it's very internal. My real comfort, my true comfort, nobody can perceive it. But the arudha padas of the fourth house and fifth house, they try to capture the essence of those. So those are the tangibles, the car that I drive, the fridge that I have at my house, the TV that I have in my living room. All these are, they try to capture my comfort. Looking at those, you try to judge how comfortable and how happy I am. So those are the padas. So I tell you that you should always look at tangible things in the padas, arudha padas of houses, not in the houses. And I tell you that you should always look at the real feelings, the real comfort, the real happiness, the real abilities, the real dharma, the real work that person does, the real guidance that the person gets, the real everything should be seen from the real houses, the actual houses from Lagna. Even though I say it, if you go back and listen to all the MP3s, all the recordings of the audio, you will definitely see occasions where I basically mixed up. I probably looked at a house to see something tangible, or I looked at an arudha pada to see something that's a little bit intangible. So all those approximations do take place, especially when we are in a hurry and when we have to give predictions to people. Somebody brings a chart. We just go by our intuition sometimes and we make compromises. But as students, if you stick to the basics and if you stick to the rules very, very thoroughly, and whenever there is a compromise being made, if you question it, that will lead to more perfect understanding. So keep that spirit alive. And now let's go back to Narayan Dasa. I want to do a few examples. And if anybody volunteers and gives an example, I can take up that example. It will be more interesting that way. Yeah?
I don't know if some of you noticed, there was a puzzle in Jyotish group and
Vedic astrology group, okay.
By a person by name Jairam, he had posted
I'm absolutely not following the list these days. Can you give me the data?
Yeah. His date of birth is January 20th.
January
20th.
2020. January 20. 1968.
2 hours 55 minutes.
2:55 a.m.
Yeah.
AM or PM?
Yeah.
2:55 a.m. Place?
Bangalore, India.
Bangalore,
India.
India.
And his wife's birthday is also.
Just we'll take up one example.
Yeah.
Is the puzzle or
No, it's like he has given 4 dates of marriage. He has given 4 dates.
yeah?
He wants us to select the right one.
Oh, okay.
It's really interesting. Like
Okay.
we can.
Do you have those days?
Yeah.
One second. Let me do one thing. Let me save this. What is the name of the chart? Oh, you have a printout? Okay. This person was born on. Forget the wife. We'll just look at husband.
Okay.
We'll focus on one.
Okay.
He was born on January 20, 1968, 2:55 a.m. in Bangalore, India, and he got married on. I mean, he doesn't tell you when he got married, but there are 4 dates he gave when he got married. January 26, 1997. One second, let me save this. What is the name?
Jairam.
Jairam. Vedic astrology puzzle. Now let me. Marriage date is, according to him, either Jan 26, 1997 or B. August 22, 1999, C. May 9, 1997, B. August 17, 1998. I am just saving it in my file. Now the question is, out of these dates, which is the actual marriage date? He got married on one of these 4 dates that I gave here. If you want to see them again, here are the dates. He got married on one of these 4 days. So what is the date? What is your guess? When did he get married? So let's attempt this puzzle. And because we want to use Narayana Dasha, of course we will use, when you are helping a client or when you are solving a puzzle, you don't have to restrict yourself to one technique. You don't have to restrict yourself to Narayana Dasha. But because we are using Narayana Dasha, we will use Narayana Dasha here. We will also use the annual lunar return chart, the Pravesha chart, and we will also look at the Vinchotri Dasha or any other Nakshatra Dasha that's applicable, and let us try to guess when he got married. Now, what is the Dasha we should apply to his chart? The Nakshatra Dasha that should be applied. Is it Vinchotri or is there a better Dasha? Is it still small? Okay. Okay. Can you see it now? If you can't, then come forward. And also get your eyes checked.
No.
Actually, and also you may want to focus. Actually, this is better focus now. Yeah. Earlier it wasn't focused. Okay. I hope everybody can read it now. Now, let us go through the list of our staple conditional dashas. First, is Lagna in Vargottama? If Lagna is in Vargottama, Satabdika Dasha will apply. That's not the case here. Is Sun in Lagna? If Sun is in Lagna, Sashti Dasha will apply. That's not the case. Is the 10th Lord in the 10th house? If the 10th Lord is in the 10th house, Chaturasi Samadasha will apply. That's not the case. Is the Lagna Lord in the 7th house or the 7th Lord in Lagna?
Yes.
Yes. Venus is the 7th Lord and he is in Lagna. So if Lagna Lord is in 7th or 7th Lord is in Lagna, Dvisaptati Samadasha applies. So we will use that Dasha instead of Vimshotri Dasha. So let us go to Dvisaptati Samadasha, the 72-year Dasha. Because the condition is applicable here, we will use this Dasha. Now, the period that he gave is in the 1997 to 1999 range. So let us see the Dasha that was running during that period. What Dasha is running during that period? Rahu Dasha is running. So he got married in Rahu Dasha. Which Antardasha did he get married in? We don't really know that yet. Based on the dates that were given, the earliest date is January 26, 1997. The latest date is August 22, 1999. So either Moon or Mars or Mercury. So it was one of the 3 Antardashas. Moon, Mars and Mercury. So he got married in Rahu Dasha in one of these 3 Antardashas. Now, for him to get married in Rahu Dasha, Rahu should have the capability to give him marriage. Does Rahu have it? Because we don't know if this chart is right. He hasn't given a lot of events for you to rectify, correct the time, in case the time is wrong.
He said more or less it's a good one. The time is...
That's his opinion. If somebody says that more or less this is an accurate time, it doesn't mean it's an accurate time.
He's not doubtful about the time.
He is not, but you should always be. So, first of all, we want to, had he given some events in his life so that you could verify the time, it would have been helpful. But this person is not being helpful by saying that the time is accurate. I know it for sure. So, let us just use this particular event and look at the Mahadasha. Tell me one thing. Can Rahu give marriage at all in this chart? Let us see the Navamsha chart. I think it is a little smaller, you can see better. Now, let us go to the Navamsha chart, because according to Parashara, Navamsha is the chart of marriage and wife or husband. So, to see the marriage, we have to see Navamsha. In Navamsha, Rahu is in the 6th house, but who is he with? He is with Venus. Venus is the Karaka for marriage. Venus is the Karaka for marriage, as well as he is the Lagna Lord.
He is also aspecting dual as well as A7.
He is aspecting A7, Darapada, as well as Upada Lagna. So he is aspecting those, and he is with the Karaka for marriage, Venus, and also Venus is the Lagna Lord. The Lagna and the 7th house are very important in Navamsha. The planets associated with Lagna or the 7th house, they can give marriage. So here, and also another thing, we said that if two planets are together, they end up giving each other's results, as long as they are not totally inimical. For example, Sun and Rahu are together, then there is an eclipse of Sun, so they don't end up exchanging each other's results. But on the other hand, if Sun and Mars are together, Sun will give Mars results and Mars will give Sun results. And here Venus and Rahu, they are friends, they don't have any problems. So they will end up exchanging each other's results. So Rahu will actually give Venus results. So in Rahu Mahadasha, Venus results are given. So the results of Lagna Lord, the Karaka of marriage, the planet who aspects Upada Lagna, the planet who aspects Darapada, A7. So because of that, Rahu is certainly capable of giving marriage. So there is a decent chance that this particular Lagna given by this person is accurate. It may not be possible to move the Lagna. But on the other hand, if Lagna was in Virgo or Scorpio, still Rahu would have the capability of giving marriage. Does everybody agree with that? If Lagna was in Scorpio, Venus would be the 7th Lord. So there would Rahu would still be capable of giving marriage in his Mahadasha. And similarly, if Lagna was in Virgo, still Rahu would be capable of giving marriage, because he is in the 7th house with Venus. So you don't really have a confidence that this particular Lagna is accurate. This could be accurate, but the Lagna on both the sides of this Lagna is still explains the event. And when you want to choose the Antardasha in which marriage happens, whether it is Moon or Mars or Mercury, you want to be real. For me?
Moon is more likely being with A7 and US.
Why? Yes, that's a very good point. Moon is in Upada Lagna and A7, assuming that this Lagna is right. So, assuming that this Lagna is right, Seshu's point is, more than Mars is the 7th Lord, but more than Mars, if you look at Moon is basically in the Upada Lagna. And marriage is a tangible event. 7th house basically shows the relationship. So when somebody gets married, he has a relationship with the wife, or a lady has a relationship with the husband. So the relationship is born. So that is what the 7th house shows, the birth of a new relationship and the bringing up of a new relationship. On the other hand, marriage, getting married in a particular ceremony or a particular ritual, that is a tangible event. So you don't really see it from the 7th house. 7th house shows the relationship. And the marriage is shown by the Arudhapada of the 7th house as well as the Arudhapada of the 12th house. So UL in the chart and A7, these actually show the marriage. So Moon is associated with those. And as a matter of fact, there is a Parivartana. There is an exchange between Jupiter and Moon. The Lord of the Upada has an exchange with Moon. And Moon is the 10th Lord. What does 10th house show? In Navamsa, karma, the work that you do. This is an activity in the society. 10th house is the activity in society. So, the Lord of that house has an exchange with the Lord of 3rd house. What is 3rd house? The house of initiative. The house of drive, that is the seed of the Kama Trikona. That is what 3rd house is. So there is an exchange between 3rd house and 10th house. So because of the initiative in the field of dharma, which is shown by Navamsa, there is certain karma done in the society. There is certain activity done in the society. And that particular house has Upada. It shows the tangible marriage, the actual marriage. So because of all these reasons, either Moon or Jupiter can actually give the marriage. So Moon Antardasha, Mercury is not really very likely. Mercury Antardasha is not very likely. Mars has some likelihood because Mars is the seventh lord.
Having Argala on second house.
Yeah. But the most likely planet, like Seshu said, is Moon. So 1997, before 1997 September. And out of the dates given, there is one which is January 26, 1997. The other is May 9, 1997. So one of these two is actually more likely. Let us look at Narayana Dasha. As you can see, there is Narayana Dasha of the D2 chart. The last Narayana Dasha I saw was of D2 chart because when I was in the seminar, we were looking at D2. Because we were doing financial astrology, we were looking at D2. So let us go to the Navamsha Narayana Dasha of D9. So the Dasha that was running during this entire period is Virgo. First of all, can Virgo Dasha give marriage? The person got married in Virgo Dasha, according to the puzzle. Can he get married in Narayana Dasha of Virgo? What are the guidelines for a Dasha to give marriage? Should either be associated with Lagna or 7th house, or even better, Upada Lagna, the UL, which shows the marriage, the ritual of marriage. So the sign should be aspecting Upada, and also association with Venus and Ketu is auspicious. If either Venus or Ketu is occupying or aspecting the Dasha sign, there is a chance of marriage. Why did I say that? Why did I teach that way earlier? Venus is the Karaka for marriage, the Karaka for love and marriage. And why Ketu? Why did I say that Ketu can give marriage? Does anybody remember the logic I gave earlier?
To give chances for increasing the lineage.
Exchanges? Where? Oh, you are talking about this particular chart.
Oh.
But I am saying in general there are two planets which are considered capable of giving marriage. Venus and Ketu. Venus is capable of giving marriage because naturally he is the planet of love. He is the planet of marriage.
The seventh lord from Venus.
No. You forgot one. Lineage, yes, lineage. Ketu is the giver of moksha. And also, Ketu is the planet who stands for lineage. He is the planet for succession. That is why when you are talking about Guru, Shishya and the succession, the master disciple succession and the parampara, the tradition, we are talking about Ketu there. Ketu is the planet of parampara. Ketu is the planet of continuation. Ketu is the planet of succession. And also Ketu is the planet of moksha. So he wants people to get married quickly, get children, and then go to moksha. Forget about everything and go to moksha. That's what Ketu wants people to do. So Venus and Ketu are the planets who give marriage. And Ketu, when he is giving marriage, he will give a marriage for the purpose of getting children. Not for the purpose of love and sex, but for the purpose of getting children, doing your dharma, and making sure that your lineage is not broken. So that is the kind of marriage that Ketu will give. If you see in a chart that at the time of marriage, only Ketu is active in the Narayana Dasha, then the person got married because he wanted to have children and to grow his family. On the other hand, if Venus is involved, there is some love and there is some material, the kama is also there, the desire, material desire. In any case, here, both the planets are involved. If you look at who are aspecting this sign, Upada, UL, A7, both are aspecting the Dasha sign. If Upada aspects Dasha sign, there is marriage. If A7 aspects Dasha sign, there is relationship. So both are there. Venus is aspecting it, the Karaka for marriage. Ketu is right there, the planet for the growth of family. The planet is right there. So because of this, Virgo is certainly capable of giving marriage. Now the tricky thing, let us go to the Antardasha. Which Antardasha is likely to give marriage? So let us look at, pardon me? We can apply the 3 parts rule, but let us look at the Antardasha first. And then we will apply the 3 parts rule. As per the Antardasha, unless then we will take we will look at all the factors and make our final conclusion. So looking at the Antardashas, the first date given was January 26, 1997. So that is Cancer Antardasha. Second date given is August 22, 1999. So that is Virgo Antardasha. The third is May 9, 1997. That is Gemini Antardasha. So Cancer, Virgo, Gemini. The fourth one is August 17, 1998. Capricorn. So the four Antardashas given are Cancer, Gemini, Capricorn and Virgo. So if you have to pick one of these, if you want to rule out one of these, is there anything that you can rule out? Cancer, Gemini, Capricorn, Virgo. Can you rule out any of these?
I can rule out Gemini to start with.
Why do you want to rule out Gemini?
Because Gemini is the least associated one with this, because he is not associated with the UL or A7 or Venus.
Why? It's aspecting.
He is aspecting it.
Gemini is aspecting Venus, Gemini is aspecting UL and A7, Gemini is aspecting Virgo.
He is aspecting, but he is not directly associated with any of those two.
You can't see. If you are expecting marriage to come in the sign that is containing UL, if you look at a lot of classical examples, it won't happen. Because this is not the only rule that's going to decide when he is getting married. There are hundreds of rules. When there is a confluence between all the rules, the event happens. So you can't expect every principle to work to the fullest. That will be an unrealistic expectation. It will happen sometimes, but it doesn't happen always. So you have to live. If Gemini gives marriage, it is certainly capable. You have to live with it. And also it has the ninth lord, a very strong ninth lord. Mercury is the ninth lord in ninth house. And marriage is after all upholding dharma. It's an event. When somebody is getting married, he is actually upholding dharma, his own dharma. So, and also, as Ketu's dispositor, Mercury is the lord of Virgo. So out of the two signs, he is in Gemini. He will favor Gemini. So he can, when the event is being given in Virgo Mahadasha, he can end up giving it in the Antardasha containing himself, which is Gemini. So Gemini is certainly capable. Pisces is capable. So there are several capable signs. But is Capricorn capable of giving marriage? Not at all. Why? Because it has nothing to do with UL, it has nothing to do with Ketu, it has nothing to do with Venus. Moreover, what is the Arodhapada there? A8. What does A8 show? It is the Mrityapada. It is the death. It shows if somebody is married, A8 shows getting divorced, or fighting with the wife, staying away from the wife, and so on. So it shows the opposite of marriage. It shows problems in marriage. So you can rule out Capricorn. What about Cancer? Is Cancer capable of giving marriage?
So this of UL.
Yeah, Cancer contains Jupiter, who is the dispositor of UL. So we saw that Moon was giving the result as per the Nakshatra Dasha. So here Moon and Jupiter are having exchange. So Cancer can certainly give the result. So Cancer is capable, Gemini is capable, Virgo is capable. So we didn't really make a lot of progress. Let us look at the other way of judging the Narayana Dasha, which is the three parts rule. So let us divide the Narayana Dasha into three parts and see who gives results in the each part. So the first part will give the results of, is Virgo a Shishvodaya Rashi or Prishvodaya Rashi? Does it rise with the back or with the head? Shishvodaya. Virgo is a Shishvodaya Rashi. It rises with its head. So out of the three parts, Virgo will want to give its results in the first part itself. Had it been Prishvodaya, it would give in the last one-third. So because this is Shishvodaya Rashi, it will give its result in the first one-third itself. But okay, after that, the Lord of Virgo will choose when to give his result. Will it be the first one-third or second one-third?
Lord is second one-third.
Lord is
Second one.
second one-third, because the Lord Mercury, he is also in a Shishvodaya Rashi. Had he been in Prishvodaya Rashi, he would have chosen the last. He would have chosen the last one-third. But he is also in a Shishvodaya Rashi, Gemini, head rising sign. So Mercury will also want to give the result as early as possible. So the first one-third is Virgo, The second 1/3 is Mercury. The last 1/3 is the planets aspecting Virgo, the planets occupying Virgo. Now, which is more likely to give the result? Is Virgo more likely to give marriage, or the planets occupying and aspecting Virgo? Why is Virgo giving result? Is it because of Ketu and Venus, or is it because Virgo is the 12th house?
So we have to take in the first part now and then
No. That's not what we are doing. We are looking at the three parts, and we are seeing which is the part that will give the result. Is Virgo giving marriage because of the nature of Virgo, or because of the nature of Mercury, or because of the nature of planets in Virgo and aspecting Virgo?
Because of Virgo itself.
Why Virgo itself?
Here we said it is-
Did we say that Virgo is giving marriage because it is the 12th house? Or did we say that it is giving marriage because it's aspecting UL A7 and Ketu is in it and Venus is aspecting it? So the result is basically being given because of Ketu Venus associated with Virgo. It's not because of Virgo itself. Had we said that, suppose this person is getting married in Aries Dasha, then Aries is the 7th house. So then we would say, because Aries is the 7th house, it is giving marriage. In that case, you will choose the 1/3 where Aries will give the result of its own nature. In other words, which sign it is, which house it is from Lagna, which house it is from Arusha Lagna. Because of that, Aries is giving the marriage. So if that is the reason. In other words, suppose Cancer Mahadasha was giving the marriage, let us say. Why is Cancer giving marriage? Because its Lord is in Upada Lagna. So in that case, the 1/3 where the results of the Lord of Cancer are given would be giving the marriage. Because Cancer in that case would be giving marriage because of its Lord. You understand what I am saying? Similarly, if let's say Libra was giving marriage, the Libra Mahadasha itself was giving marriage. Then Libra is Lagna, that is why it's giving marriage. So again, the 1/3 corresponding to Libra itself, they have given a marriage. Here, the sign itself is not really capable of giving marriage. It is the 12th house, so it's not really capable of giving marriage. The chance is very small. The Lord Mercury,
12th house with Ketu in fact is opposite to giving marriage.
not necessarily for marriage, can give marriage. But basically 12th house Ketu will give tendency towards moksha.
Right.
So if it gives marriage, it will give marriage for the purpose of getting children and quickly getting over with the material life. And Mercury is capable of giving marriage because he is Ketu's dispositor and he is aspecting Upada Lagna. So the middle 1/3 where Mercury's results are given also is capable of giving marriage, but the last 1/3 really dominates because Ketu is in Virgo and Venus is aspecting it. So that 1/3 really dominates. So now what we have to do is, we have to look at all the planets who are aspecting Virgo or occupying Virgo. Which are those planets? Ketu, Moon, Venus, Rahu, Mercury. There are 5 planets. So we have to divide the last 1/3, which is from January 20, 1999 to 2000 January 20. This is basically 1 year. This 1 year we can divide into 5 parts. In one part, the result of Ketu being in Virgo will be given. In the other part, the result of Venus aspecting Virgo will be given, and so on. So we have to see the order of when each factor will give its result. What is the rule for that? The longitudes. So Ketu and Rahu are, they are same, but what is the longitude? Do we have to subtract 30? Subtract this from 30? Right. So if we subtract this from 30, this is basically like half degree. So Rahu and Ketu are the least powerful. The most powerful is Venus. He is at 28 degrees 15 minutes. So he will give the results first. Then, out of Moon and Mercury, who is more powerful? Moon. Moon is at 27 degrees. So the order is Venus, Moon, Mercury, Rahu and Ketu. Out of Rahu and Ketu, who will be first? Rahu will be first. Okay.
Why is that?
Not necessarily. You have to make a value call. They are always very comparable. You have to make a value call. And my value call would be here.
Because it's,
Rahu is an exalted Venus, so probably he's giving the result.
It varies from case to case.
Yeah, it should vary from case to case.
It's not because of the further.
No,
Head level, head
no,
level.
no. It varies from case to case. So here, this is the order. So if you divide the 1 year from January 20, 1999 to January 20, 2000, 12 months divided by 5. So roughly how much is it? 12 months divided by 5. Roughly 2.4 months. So 2 months and what is 0.4? 2 months and 12 days roughly. Okay. So from January 20 till March, end of March or April 1st, that will be the result of Venus. So in this period there is one August 22, 1999. Let us see whose part that comes in.
So there is only 1 day in 1999.
Pardon me? Yeah, there is 1 day. Let us see which 1/3 that falls in.
Oh,
Okay? That is, if you look at the distance from January 20 to August 22, that's roughly 7 months. Right? Right? So it is, which 1/3 would that be? I said 2.4 months for each planet. So if you take 3 of them, that will be 3 times 2.4. That will be 6 and 7.2 months. So the result was given towards the end of the third 1/3. So whose 1/3 is that? Whose 1/3 is the third 1/3? Are you following me? The first 2.4 months is Venus. Next 2.4 months is Moon. The next 2.4 months is Mercury. The next 2.4 months is Rahu, and the next 2.4 months is Ketu. So the result is given in the period of Mercury's aspect on it. Mercury's aspect on Virgo. Mercury, who's
How do you conclude that? How do you conclude that in repeat for me?
okay. From January 20 to 2.4 months
It is 2.4
will be Venus.
Right.
From there to another 2.4 months, you will get the result of Moon aspecting Virgo. Next 2.4 months, you will get the result of Mercury aspecting Virgo. Next 2.4 months, you will get the result of Rahu aspecting Virgo. Next 2.4 months, you will get the result of Ketu aspecting Virgo. Ketu being in Virgo. So that is the order.
And why did you say it happened in, that's because you were saying that from the date.
Oh, because I already have a date. There is only one likely date.
Oh, okay.
So if Mercury gives the result of his aspect on Virgo, the 9th Lord in 9th house aspecting Virgo, then this particular date is
That
possible.
is why.
So and before that, what we did was, because
Yeah, I got it.
we looked at the 3 1/3 and last 1/3 is more likely.
Right.
So we concluded. So the date that we conclude based on this is 1999, August 22. Now, let us, before we make a conclusion, let us look at the annual chart.
It's from the first analysis we did with the Vincent Tridasa.
Yeah.
This 99 was not at all in picture.
So we have to make a. So now, the what Parani is saying is, this 99 was not at all in picture with what we did earlier. So we have to reconcile. Like I said, when you are using multiple techniques, not all of them will give the perfect result. So you have to reconcile between them. So let us go back to the Nakshatra Dasha, Visaptatis of Dasha.
There is also an element that in the Nakshatra when we looked at,
Yeah,
we took Jesus to Samdasa.
yeah.
But maybe if the date was right or wrong, maybe that possibly was not applicable.
Well, let us see how, the Lagna in Rashi chart will change if the time changes by 46 minutes, 40 seconds backwards or 1 hour, 25 minutes forward. So that is the,
But we were looking at, should we look at that same aspect in Navamsa?
no. The condition of applicability of Nakshatra Dashas is in Rashi chart.
Okay.
So Venus, the 7th Lord being in Lagna, is a given. Even if the time changes by 5 minutes, it's a given. So Drisaptata Samadasha definitely applies. So let us not compromise on that. So now if we go back, Moon and Mars, and the last one is actually Mercury. Now, did we conclude that Mercury is incapable of giving marriage?
Yes.
But is that a right conclusion? We did not actually conclude.
We didn't conclude.
The thing we concluded was Aquarius Antardasha and Narayana not being capable of giving marriage. So again, we are in a quandary. Moon, Mars and Mercury, all of them are reasonably, though I would have picked Moon as the most likely planet. Mercury can also give marriage, being the ninth lord in the ninth house. Right? Let us look at the Prachyanta Dasha at the time of marriage. Because, remember this, when you are looking at an event like marriage or getting a child, more than the Mahadasha, Antardasha will show it even clearer. And more than Antardasha, Prachyanta Dasha will show it even clearer. Why? Because if you are looking at a 2-year period, that particular marriage may not be a big event on your mind. If you are looking at a 20-year Dasha, during those 20 years, there may be so many things that are going on. So that may not be the most important thing on your mind. But when you are looking at a few months, a Prachyanta Dasha which is running for 3 months, your marriage that is happening on a particular day is the biggest event on your mind. So during the Prachyanta Dasha, that particular event would be the focus. So compared to Mahadasha, compared to Antardasha, Prachyanta Dasha, they will show even clearer. So let us look at the 4 days and look at the Prachyanta Dasha that was running. So 1999, August 22, the Prachyanta Dasha is that of Sun. And if there is a small error, it could be Moon. But not really a small error. If there is a big error, it could be Moon. But you should realize that if the time changes by 2 minutes, the dates could change by a couple of minutes. So this is not really, these dates are not really written in stone. So it is either Sun or Moon, the border between Sun and Moon. That's when the event happened. Let us go to the Mars Antardasha. If marriage happened on August 17th,
Sun could still give marriage, right?
see, if we keep on doing that, everybody could give marriage.
No, like it is with the 7th Lord.
Yeah.
It will give the 7th Lord's result, right? Like it's...
Okay, good point. So in that case, good point. So Parley's point is, we forgot that Sun is with Mars. So Sun and Mars will end up exchanging their results. In which case, we can rule out the Mars Antardasha. Mars, we said, is capable of giving marriage because he is the 7th lord. But we ignore the fact that he is with Sun in the Navamsha. So, if at all Mars gives the result, he would give it in Sun Antardasha. So, Mars Antardasha would give the result of Sun. Sun is basically the 11th lord in the 5th house. He doesn't have anything to do with Lagna, 7th house. So, Mars Antardasha cannot give marriage. So, out of the 4 dates, August 17, 1998 is now ruled out. So, we will not look at that date. Okay? Now, let us look at the Moon Antardasha. There are 2 dates in that particular Antardasha. January 26, 1997, that is basically the border between Jupiter and Venus. And the second one is May 9, 1997. That is basically Shani. Can Saturn give marriage? Not very likely. Saturn Prachyanta Dasha is not very likely to give marriage. Does everybody see that? Because the planets that we have really narrowed down are Moon for being in the Upada Lagna. Moon is one planet, and Sun is another planet, and Mercury is another planet. These are the planets that we have narrowed down on. Saturn is a Yogakaraka, but he is in A6. A6 is, it shows separation. It is the Arudhapada of the 6th house. It shows quarrel, separation, etc. It does not show getting married. He is in the 12th from Upada, and he is in A6.
It also has exchange with Mars.
He has exchange with Mars, okay. So you guys are really complicating things for me. So Saturn has an exchange with Mars. So Sun will give Sun is giving the result of Mars and Mars is giving the result of Sun, but there is an exchange between Mars and Saturn. So Saturn will actually end up giving Sun's result, and Mars will actually end up giving Saturn's result. So finally the conclusion is, so now we should have looked at all these factors to start with, but finally we looked at all the factors. So Sun can give marriage, and Mars, what will he give? Whose result will Mars give?
Saturn.
No. First, Mars and Sun exchange each other's results. So Mars results are being given by Sun results are being given by Mars. And then Mars and Saturn exchange their results because of the Parivartana. So Saturn will give Sun's results. Saturn is going to give Sun's results. Mars is going to give Saturn's results. And Sun is going to give Mars results. So this is the final conclusion. So out of these three planets, out of Saturn, Sun and Mars, who can give marriage? Mars can give marriage. So it can be given in the Antardasha of Sun. Antardasha or some period of Sun can give them marriage. Okay? So looking at all the factors here,
Sun gives that indicated that Sun is now exchanging with Saturn, right?
not Sun. Mars is exchanging with Saturn. Sun is not exchanging with Saturn.
No, Mars is exchanging with Saturn. Mars is exchanging with Sun. And
Mars is not exchanging. Mars is with Sun. So they are exchanging the results.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Mars and Sun have Parivartana. Same time, Mars and Saturn also have Parivartana.
Only Mars and Saturn have Parivartana.
Mars and Saturn, okay. Alright,
Think about it. But bottom line is, Sun will give the result of Mars. Mars will give the result of Saturn. Saturn will give the result of Sun.
Okay.
So Mars is acting as an agent between Sun and Saturn. Okay, now let us go back to the analysis. So, Moon can give the result, Mars Antardasha is unlikely to give the result, Mercury Antardasha can give the result. So, 1998 date is ruled out, and when we looked at the Mercury period, we saw in the border of Sun and Moon, so the 1999 date is still not ruled out, and in the 2 dates given in 1997, the one in January and the one in May, both happen to be in Moon Antardasha, and the Pratyantardasha happens to be one is Jupiter, border of Jupiter and Venus. Can Moon Antardasha, Jupiter, Pratyantardasha give the marriage? Absolutely. Because Moon is in Upada Lagna, UL and A7, and Jupiter is the lord of it. So this is certainly, and their exchange will be fructified in the Dasha of Moon and Antardasha of Jupiter, or Antardasha of Moon and Pratyantardasha of Jupiter, or vice versa. When Antardasha or Dasha of one planet runs, and a sub-period of the other planet runs in that period, the result of their exchange will be given. And the exchange between Moon and Jupiter is very auspicious. It is Gatkesara Yoga. The exchange between Moon and Jupiter is Gatkesara Yoga, and because it is happening on the 3rd and 10th house axis, it can make the kama, the desire, the initiative, fructify as a social function. 10th house is social event, and 3rd house is the initiative and drive. The person has a certain initiative he needs certain drive to get married. And the 10th house is the karma he does in the society. So this marriage is a fructification between the initiative and the karma. So the exchange between Moon and Jupiter gives a yoga from that point of view, which can give the actual marriage. And also they are associated with UL. So certainly Moon Jupiter is capable of giving marriage. So 1997 January date looks very feasible. What about the second date? Saturn. May 9th is Saturn Pratyantardasha. It's not really so exciting. So let us, probably this is not the correct date. So looking at this, the January date looks more likely. Now let us go to Narayana Dasha and see if we can reconcile it. So if it happened in 1997 January, it happened as soon as Cancer, as soon as Virgo Mahadasha started. So it happened in the first 1/3 itself. So if it happens in the first 1/3, it is not given because of Ketu or Venus being in it, but it is given because of Virgo itself. Is Virgo itself capable of giving the marriage? It is the 12th house and it is aspecting UL.
As a result of being 12, but it can give the
Result, if it is the 12th house, it doesn't necessarily have to give marriage. But 12th house shows growing the family. That is why UL, which is the Arudhapada of the 12th house, is seen for marriage. I was earlier when I asked you, can 12th house give marriage? I was hoping that somebody would answer that after all, UL, which is considered the most important Arudhapada for marriage, is nothing but the Arudha of the 12th house. So 12th house is the house of continuing the lineage. So 12th house, especially when Ketu is there, you are saying that 12th house has Ketu, so it is bad. But 12th house, especially because Ketu is there, is very conducive to getting married. And moreover, that Virgo is aspecting UL. When we are saying that Venus is aspecting it and Ketu is aspecting it, then the result is given in the 1/3 corresponding to the aspects and occupation. But when you say that Virgo is aspecting UL, we are talking about Virgo itself. We are talking about sign aspecting another sign. UL and A7 are in Sagittarius and Virgo is aspecting them. So, if the aspect on UL and A7 is a key factor, then in the 1/3 corresponding to Virgo itself can give the marriage. So, this is not really impossible. The first 1/3 we can reconcile with it. But
We know the date, that's why
we don't really know the date yet for your information.
Who dates are...
This is a puzzle. We don't really know.
No, but I'm saying at least narrowing down to...
Because we have narrowed down based on the other dasha, now we are reconciling, that is why. But we don't really know. For all you know, this could still be wrong. But if there is one technique that works reliably, using which you can make predictions confidently, it is not Vinchotri dasha, it is not Narayan dasha, it is Pravesh. So let us go to the annual chart. So he was January 20. What are the dates? January 26. So hopefully it will be, if we make 1997, it will cover 2 of the days. Oh no. The birthday, the lunar birthday of 1997 happened on January 28th. Just 2 days after the first date. So if we want to analyze this particular date, we have to make the chart for 1996 lunar birthday. So 1996 lunar birthday was on February 9, 1996. And let us look at each of the charts and see if there is a chance of getting married. Is there a chance of getting married in this particular year? The Hora Lord, the ruler of the year, the king of the year is Mars. Mars is the ruler of the year, and in Navamsa he is the Lagna Lord in the 12th house. In Rasi he is the Lagna Lord in the 11th house. And let us quickly check Vivaha Sahama. There is Vivaha Sahama, marriage. That is in Vivaha Sahama is in Gemini, and Gemini has UL in it, and its Lord Mercury. Its Lord Mercury, does it have anything to do with the 7th Lord? Does it have any aspect or anything with the 7th Lord? Not really. Mercury is at the beginning of Capricorn, and if you look at the Navamsa, Mars is in the 12th house. So let us not draw any conclusions, just look at this chart. Let us look at all the charts. Now 1997.
You only look at the Rasi or both?
Rasi and Navamsa. Because marriage is seen in Navamsa.
Then why Rasi?
Pardon me? Rasi is the physical certification. When you are looking at an annual chart, give a lot of importance to Rasi.
It should have some indications, right? Like 7th house or Lagna.
Yes. Yeah. And also, actually, we forgot one thing. We did not look at the dasha. So 1997, the last dasha was Jupiter. So if he got married in 1997 January, at the end of this year, it would be in Jupiter Mahadasha. And Jupiter, does he have anything to do with marriage? Well, he's in the 9th house. He's in the 9th house. He's aspecting UL. And in the Navamsa chart, he has a Raj Yoga with Venus.
And he is with S1.
He is with S1. Now, let us leave it. There is some chance. Now, let us look at all the 4, and there will be one that really stands out, and then we'll pick that. So, 1997. This year, the Hora Lord, the Lord of the Hora at the time the chart started, is Venus. So, the ruler of the year is Shukra, Venus. Now, look at the chart. In the Rashi chart, Venus is the 5th Lord. He is in the 7th house. Venus is 5th Lord in the 7th house with the Lagna Lord. So, ruler of the year Venus is Karaka for marriage, and he is in the 7th Lord. He is in the 7th house, and he has a Raj Yoga with Mercury. How close is the Raj Yoga? Mercury is at 20 degrees, around 21 degrees, and Venus is around 29 degrees. So there is it's a reasonably close. It's not very close, but it's a reasonably close Raja Yoga, 9 degrees. And they are both aspecting Lagna. So Lagna Lord and fifth Lord conjoining and aspecting Lagna means definitely there is some important event happening that year. And that Venus is in the fifth house. So there is certainly a chance of getting married. Look at the Navamsha. Does Venus have anything to do with Navamsha? In the Navamsha, Lagna is strong with Lagna Lord Mars in the Lagna, and the seventh house has Mercury in it, which is not auspicious. Why is it not auspicious? Because Mercury is a male figure. From Aries Lagna, Mercury is a functional male figure. But also, but ignoring Mercury, the Lord of the sign, the Lord of the seventh house Venus is in ninth house of Dharma in UL. So see, when we were looking at Vimshottari and Narayan Dasha, sometimes in some cases it's very clear. You immediately know when the event happened. But sometimes you have 2 or 3 different possibilities and it's very difficult to make up your mind. But here, when you look at this chart, does it seem very likely that this year will give marriage? It looks very, very likely based on both Rasi chart and the Navamsha chart. Given the links with the ruler of the year, with the 7th house, with the UL, etc., there is a very good chance that he will get married. And let us see, what are the dates in this particular period? May 9, 1997. What is the Dasha then? What is the Dasha that was running on May 9, 1997? Venus Dasha, Mercury Antar Dasha. So, in case this is the correct date, he got married in Venus Dasha, Mercury Antar Dasha. And they are the planets giving Raj Yoga in the 7th house in the Rasi chart. And they are the planets associated. Pardon me?
You said the Mercury is a functional male.
Mercury is a functional male figure. His situation in the 7th house will show when Mercury Dasha comes during the year, there will be some quarrels. Even though they were newly married, there will be some quarrels. Pardon me? Yes, he is in Mankartasthana. So actually, that ignore it. That actually nullifies being the 6th Lord. But let us ignore Mankartasthana. But just because Mercury is bad, it doesn't mean all of Mercury Antardashas are bad. See, in his Mahadasha, I will predict based on this. Based on 6th Lord Mercury being in the 7th house, I will predict that in Mercury Antardasha there will be a lot of quarrels. But when you look at Venus Mahadasha, where is the Bhoga? From Venus, Mercury is in, from Venus, Mercury is the 7th Lord in the 11th house. So he can give certification of desire. You see what I am saying? So in Venus Mahadasha, Mercury Antardasha is very auspicious. It can give marriage. And if you look at the Bhoga, it is in 6th house, a trine. It is again very good. From Venus, Mercury is in the 11th house. From Mercury, if you count the 11th house, it is Leo. So the Bhoga of Mercury in Venus Mahadasha is in 11th house. So what is actually experienced during Venus Mahadasha, Mercury Antardasha is shown by Leo, which is 5th house. What is 5th house? Purva Punya. The blessings because of the past good karma. So there will be an auspicious event in Venus Mercury. And apart from it, there is a Raj Yoga given in the 7th house in Rasi chart. Rasi chart shows what is happening physically. Navamsha shows the dharmic environment in which things are, whatever is happening is happening. That's the dharmic environment surrounding the event. But Rasi chart is the chart of physical events. And in the 7th house, you have a Raj Yoga between Venus and Mercury. And one of the dates given by the person happens to be Venus Mahadasha, Mercury Antardasha. See, this is a 11-day period. So it so happened that the date he gave is in those 11 days. If I was just making a prediction, if I was looking at this Dasha, this year, this particular year, I would have actually expected marriage in that period. So there is a very good chance that this is the date. So you don't really have to look at the remaining 2 dates.
But Narayan Dasha is in 99 has a better chance.
Yeah, we were wrong. Like I said, this is the one that gives real clarity.
Can you see the 99 Philippa, we didn't see that yet.
We didn't, but I'm not really sure because I won't find something better than this, I'm sure.
Can you see a Vivaha phenomena?
Yeah. It will be nice if Vivaha Sahama is also linked, but we already have a confluence of so many factors. Where is Vivaha Sahama? Vivaha Sahama is in 11 degrees 47 minutes Aries. So, Vivasahama is in Aries, and the lord of that sign is Mars, and he has an aspect with Venus. Venus and Mars they are aspecting each other. Mars has a 4th aspect on Venus, and Venus has a 10th aspect on Mars, but it's not really a strong aspect. So Vivasahamam is not really being activated strongly.
That is heating, I understand.
If you want to do it, you can do it, but
Just for the sake of it, can you see 99 field position?
okay.
98 we ruled out any case.
Yeah, let us look at 99.
It is August, it is August 99, so we have to
Okay.
look at 90.
August 99 means we have to look at 99 itself, because he was born in January. So the annual return chart, lunar return chart will be sometime in January, February time, between January 15 and February 15. Okay, so in this particular chart, if he got married on 1999, August 22, that would be Moon Mahadasha.
Who's the Horala?
The Hora Lord, the ruler of the year. By the way, in the other chart, Venus happened to be the ruler of the year too. Here also Venus is the ruler of the year. Okay. So Venus is the ruler of the year. And if you look at Navamsha, Venus is the ruler of the year is in the 6th house, in Manakaraka Sthana. The 9th lord is in Manakaraka Sthana. For Venus, 6th house is Manakaraka Sthana. So 9th lord in Manakaraka Sthana means dharma becomes bhasta during that year. The person does not follow the dharma well. There will be some compromise relating to dharma. And Venus is in the 6th house. And what is the result for that? What is 6th house? It can show. And also he is the A6 lord. If you look at A6, 6th house is basically feeling some anxiety, feeling some the tendency to quarrel basically, but this is an internal thing. So you may be unhappy with your wife. You may be in a mood to fight. So that is shown by the 6th house. But the actual spat, the actual verbal spat, you may shout at her, she may shout back at you. That actual shouting is a tangible, it's not an intangible. Whereas the anger you feel, the frustration you feel is an intangible. So that is from the 6th house. So 6th house will show the intangible aspect of fighting. The actual tangible fighting or the quarrel that physically happens, that tangibly happens, is from A6. And if you look at A6, it is owned by Venus. So Venus is connecting A6 with the 6th house. He is the lord of A6 and he is in the 6th house. So Venus definitely shows fighting. So during this year, the person may not accept it, but there will be a lot of fighting, there will be a lot of misunderstandings with the wife, some verbal spats, shouting at each other. So that is what you would expect. But looking at the marriage, Rahu, the 6th lord Rahu is in the 7th house in Navamsha. And the ruler of the year, Venus is in Manakaraka Sthana in Navamsha. So if you were predicting when the person would get married, if you didn't know it and you were predicting it ahead, would you look at this year as a potential year? If the person is already married, you will tell him to be careful, don't fight with your wife, be nice, take things easy, that's what you would tell him. So this is not the date, this is definitely not the date. If you want, you could look at 1998 also. But the thing is, when you look at different dasas, in some cases, in a minority of the cases, there is no clear winner. There is the year when the marriage happened, there will be indications will be very weak. But that's in a minority of cases. In a majority of cases, for an important event like marriage, it will really stand out in the annual chart, like we saw in the case of 1997 chart. So when you are looking at various years, when you look at that particular year, you don't have to look further. Especially here, it so happened that the dasha also coincided with one of the days. So,
Wife's Siri Pravesha chart, 97 shows here.
So he's saying that actually I see that in the printout, he put a tick, he put a check mark in front of May 9, 1997. So I take it that you concluded the same day, based on your own analysis. And he says that when you look at his wife's chart, then also that particular year stands out. So Ptolemy's guess was 1997. So even though we fluctuated based on other dashas, I'm very confident based on Sri Pravesh that this particular date must be the date. So the lesson is, learn Narayan Dasha, learn Vimshottari Dasha, learn Vishwatil Samadasha, learn all the dashas. But when you are looking at a very short-term focus, Sthiti Pravesh is the best. And also Tajika works well, but Sthiti Pravesh is really the best. Now, we have another half hour. Any other puzzle? Yeah, no problem. I may already have your chart. What is the name? I think he saved it as session. Or maybe Bombay wala. No. June 13, 1949, 10:52 4 a.m. We'll stick to the corrected time for now. So the original time was 10:55, but apparently in a previous class we looked at this chart and we corrected the time to 10:52 4. The time zone is Indian Standard Time, 5:30 East, and the place is Palayam Kottai. Is that the correct? Palayam Kottai, 77 degrees 44 minutes east, 8 degrees 43 minutes north. Do you have a question?
Yes,
So basically you want the class to take a look at your career and see what is so. No, just choose one because I don't have time for both. So career or finances? Finances, okay. So for finances, what is the chart? D2, and this is not the right D2. We will use Kasinath Hora chart. So this particular chart, pardon me? See, if you look at the normal Hora chart, Parashara taught that if you look at all the signs, in odd signs, the first half is ruled by sun and the second half is ruled by moon. In even signs, which is second, fourth, sixth, etc., the first half is ruled by moon and the second half is ruled by sun. So basically Parashara defined sun or moon as the rulers of Hora. Each sign is divided, each house is divided into 12 parts. So you have 24 Horas going around the zodiac, and the first one is sun. In odd signs, the first one is sun, second one is moon. In even signs, it's the reverse. And what some scholars interpreted Parashara's teaching as is, sun's Hora must mean Leo, moon's Hora must mean Cancer, because those are the two signs that sun and moon own in the zodiac. So when you map back those 24 parts into the 12 sign zodiac, people just take sun, Leo and Cancer. So look at this Hora chart. This is, when you ask any person about Hora chart, this is what they are going to give you. Where all the planets are either in Leo or in Cancer, just two signs. And how can you interpret such a chart when all the planets are just in two signs? And we believe, in our tradition, we believe that this is not the right chart. We believe that people misinterpreted Parashara. When you say sun's Hora and moon's Hora, they thought that it means Cancer and Leo by mistake. What we believe is sun and moon just don't own two signs out of those 12 signs, but they own two halves of the zodiac. You divide the zodiac into two halves. One is sun's half, one is moon's half. Basically, the daytime, there are 6 signs rising in the daytime and 6 signs rising in the nighttime. 6 signs which you can't see basically. So one corresponds to sun, one corresponds to moon. And based on that, there is a variation of the Hora chart to interpret Parashara's verse in a slightly different way, so that all the planets don't have to go into two signs, but they can go into two halves of the zodiac. So this particular variation of the Hora chart it didn't have a name in our tradition. This is Hora. The other one is not a chart. This is the real Hora chart in our tradition. But when we are sharing it with the world, with other scholars who are from other traditions, we have to give a name so that they can distinguish between this chart and the other chart. So what Sanjay, my guru, what he did is, he just gave it the name of his guru, because it had to have a name. So the name of his guru is Kasinath Rath, so he just called it Kasinath Hora. So that is how the name came. So this is the chart in which you should see financial situation. And when you are talking about the financial situation, Narayan Dasha is the best Dasha. So I will look at Narayan Dasha of the Hora chart and try to judge how the finances will be. Let us see the Dasha that's running right now. From 1996 June till 2000 June, these 9 years, he has been running Leo Dasha. How is Leo Dasha? Yes.
When you said these only Narayan Dasha will be?
Yes.
if you are looking for next 1 year or something like that, isn't Jupiter?
Oh, of course, you can look at Vijay Pravesh. If he wants to know, I'm going to buy a lottery, will I win lottery tomorrow?
Right.
You may look at just this year's annual chart, the lunar return chart, and you can make predictions. So I'm not saying other techniques are useless, but if you want to look at the whole life, not just 1 year in the life, this is a very good dasha, Narayan dasha.
What do you mean to use Narayan Dasha instead of Vimshatri?
Instead of Vimshatri. I haven't found Vimshatri dasha giving excellent results with this particular chart. Narayan dasha, on the other hand, gives very impeccable results. Okay, in this chart, in this sign, this is a, first of all, this is a front rising, this is a head rising sign, this is not a back rising sign. So it gives results in the first 1/3. The middle 1/3 will give the results of Lord Sun, and the last 1/3 will give the result of planets aspecting it and planets occupying it. So overall, if you look at the last, let us focus on the last 1/3 because this is the last few years, because he is basically concerned about the current period. Let us look at the this part, and this part is basically 3 years. And how many planets? Saturn is here, Mercury and Sun are aspecting him, and Jupiter is aspecting him. So there are 4 planets. So if you divide the 3 years into 4 planets, it is basically 3/4 of a year. So roughly, not roughly, exactly 9 months for each planet.
It's already there, right? Like last 4 things we can use as it is.
Oh, perfect. Is it 4 planets? Oh, yeah, it is 4 planets. So, okay. So this part will be, we have to look at the longitudes. Where is Saturn? 7 degrees. Mercury, 15 degrees. Sun, 28 degrees. Sun is the most advanced, so Sun will give the results first. Then Mercury and then Saturn. And where does Jupiter fit? He is 8. So he will be before Saturn. So the order, if you arrange planets in the descending order of degree, Sun will give the results first, then Mercury, then Jupiter, then finally Saturn. This is the order. So if you look at the Antardashas, from June 2002 to 2003 March, she gets the results of Sun aspecting Lagna. The debilitated Sun aspecting Lagna. This is not so bad. But if you want to focus on the current period, from 2004 September till 2005 June, he is getting the results of Saturn being in Lagna. Saturn being in Hora Lagna. Is it good or bad? Saturn is in Mankaraka Sthana, which means death inflicting station for Saturn. And what is death in financial matters? It's not real physical death. It is basically some tightness in the finances. And Saturn is in general a planet of giving hard work, giving labor, not giving easy results. Yeah, he's a functional male. He's the 6th lord of struggle and the 7th lord of strong desire. So what Saturn gives to this person is lot of struggle, the need to work hard to make money, and also strong desire. 7th house is the house of desire. So strong desire to make lot of money. So those are the results given by Saturn. So especially from September 2004 until the coming June, which is basically a few days away, this period is a bad period as far as finance are concerned. This is a very tight period when there will be a lot of struggle and lot of hard work and not lot of happiness in financial matters. But if you look at the next period, because he is changing dasha, he is changing period from Leo, he is going to start Virgo period in June 2005. On June 13, 2005, he is going to start Virgo dasha. Now let us see how this dasha will be. First of all, is it a front rising, is it a head rising sign or back rising sign? It's a head rising sign. So the first 1/3 will give the results of sign itself. So let us not look at the next period. Let us focus on next few years. So from June 2005 till 2009 February, during this period he will give the results of Virgo itself. And what is Virgo? Which house it is? Which house is it? From Lagna. From the rising sign, this is the second sign. So basically, this is the house of resources. So he will be very resourceful in this period. So his resourcefulness will increase in this period. And also wealth will increase. Wealth is of course one of the resources. There are so many resources you can use. Speech is a resource. Wealth is a resource. The connections you have to various people in the society, that's a resource. So
D2, because of this D2, which is the money.
D2 is not exactly money. That's what I want to emphasize. Normally the misconception is the D2 chart shows money. But not exactly. This is the chart that shows your resources. For example, one of the charts that I was presenting at the conference, at the seminar in Salisbury the last weekend, one of the examples was of N.T. Ramarao, the Indian political leader. You look at his D2 Narayan Dasha. In 1983 May, he started Gemini Narayan Dasha. And exactly at that time, in 1993, I think April or so, he was elected as the Chief Minister of a state in India. Exactly, the Dasha changed, and the Dasha had Khati Lagna in it. The normal Lagna is the rising sign, but Khati Lagna shows power, authority, the access to influence. And exactly when the Dasha started, he became the Chief Minister of India. And that is shown in that Narayan Dasha. Why? Because when you are Chief Minister or Governor or a Prime Minister or a President, you have access to power. You call somebody and tell him, do this, that will be done for you. So that access to power, that access to influence, that access to people, that's a resource. What is after all money? What is the value of a paper? Why is it important? Because you can get things done by it. That is the importance of money. The importance of money is a resource that you can use to do something in the society. After all, the purpose is to do something in the society. And money is just one resource. So the misconception that D2 shows money is not exactly right. The word Parashta used, the Sanskrit word is Sampada. The literal translation that many people use today is money. But Sampada is not money. It is the ability to do things. The resources that you have, with which you can do things. So the connections you have to people, the influence you have over people is also D2. So here, second house has Venus and Ketu. It has a debilitated planet, that is auspicious. In the D2 chart, what Gemini said is, Tasmin Nuche Nike Vas Srimanta, which means if there is an exalted planet or if there is a debilitated planet, the person will accomplish a lot. If there is an exalted planet, the importance is he will be happy, he will be cheerful, he will be excited about what he is doing. If there is a debilitated planet, he is not happy, he is sad, he has to work, but either way he will make a lot of money. So in this case, Venus is debilitated there. Any house. In general, exaltation is D2. Yeah. If any planet is exalted in any house in D2, that planet will give money very easily. If it is debilitated, again it will give money, but after some work. So it doesn't come very easily. So here Venus and Ketu are there, and Moon is aspecting it, and moreover Arudha Lagna. It is the 10th house from Arudha Lagna. Never ignore Arudha Lagna. Lagna is the true self. What is my true self? Who am I? I don't really understand it fully. I have some understanding of who I am. You would have some understanding of who you are. But the real you, you don't really know. It's much more than this body. It's much more than this brain. It's much more than this mind. There is a soul. There is an existence which is beyond the material existence, which cannot be put in words. So that is what the rising sign shows. The ascendant and the lagna, that shows the true you, which cannot be captured in some words. On the other hand, AL, the Arudha Lagna, it shows the perceived you, how the world perceives you. When world looks at me, it looks at as a person who is so much tall, so much fat, an intelligent person, somebody who can put concepts in words very nicely, or somebody may think an aggressive person who fights with people. So all the image that the world has, that is captured by AL, the Arudha Lagna. That is very important. When you are talking about your financial status, the world may see you as somebody who can get things done, a resourceful person. Or the world may think, oh, he doesn't have money, he doesn't have anything, he can't get things done. So the image that the world has is seen from Arudha Lagna. So never ignore houses from the AL, along with the houses from Lagna. So when you look from the AL, not from the ascendant, but from the AL, this is the 10th house. 10th house is, what is the 10th house? The house of some karma, some action in the society. So during this time, as far as your financial life is concerned, you will be very active in the society. You will be doing some work, etc. Even from Lagna, the 10th Lord Venus is occupying this sign. So, the work that you are doing, this is not a period when you will be retiring. This is a period when you will be even more active in the society than you were in the last period. So you will be very active, your career will have a new direction, and you will be making some reasonable money. Where is Hora Lagna? Hora Lagna, that is the source of actual money. Earlier we said money. The money is shown by Hora Lagna. And GL, Katika Lagna, this is another difference. GL shows power and influence. HL shows wealth, actual money, the notes, the gold, etc. That shows the money. So Venus is the lord of these two important lagnas. So because Venus is occupying this particular sign, in this particular dasha, the dasha that is going to come now, you will have a lot of access to influential people. You will be able to exert some authority, and also you will be doing a lot of activities in the society, and you will have more money than you have now. But when? Not in the first 1/3. In the first 1/3, you will get the results of second house and 10th house from AL. But the results of Venus, that is when the peak will come. So you will start being more active in the society. Your career will get a new direction. But the peak, the pinnacle of the dasha will come in the part when Venus gives his results. Because Venus is the lord of HL and GL. He is the one linking HL and GL with this particular period. So when is that? That is the last 1/3. So from 2012 to 2016, that will be the peak of your financial life. You will be an influential person during that period. Until then, you have to work hard. But last 6 or 7 months would have been really rough, because Saturn is giving his results right now. So on June 13, you will start a new dasha, and in my judgment, your financial situation will not be as tight as it is now. There will be new opportunities, and you will be able to make more money after that time. So all the best for that.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Whenever we are looking D2, just look at the second house and
Second house, 11th house, every house. Let me quickly show part of the presentation.
do you have this presentation in the audio?
I don't. Unfortunately, the audio was not recorded as MP3 like we do. They record cassettes. They recorded actually video cassettes, and they will be selling those in that. They have a library in the Ashvidya Gurukulam. So I'm afraid you guys are not going to get access to it anytime soon. So I'll be covering whatever I covered at the seminar here.
Okay, do you have a video on V3 or something like that?
I'll give you the address of Rakesh,
Okay.
who handles all this. Sorry. You can get in touch with him and see if something can be done.
Because if somebody has a video of V3 or DVD or anything, I will after I can just type the audio of it and get an association.
Okay. I talk to Rakesh. I don't know what is their policy, because when I teach something here, I don't have any policy. Whatever you record, put it freely on the web. But when somebody else does it and they charge some money for it, it's their prerogative. So talk to Rakesh. I don't want. I just want to. The houses from Lagna. When you look at the D2 chart, the chart of wealth and resources, it's not that only second house is important. Every house has a meaning in every chart. The first house from Lagna will show self from the point of view of finances and resources. Second house will show the resources at your command. The third house will show the initiative, enterprise and boldness that you have. Fourth house will show the direction in your financial activity, the happiness, the comfort you have in the matters of finances. And the fifth house will show your earning ability. The sixth house will show the wealth that you make from your service and the obstacles you have in your financial life. Seventh house is the desires that you have and the interactions that you have with others. The eighth house is the changes, ups and downs in your financial life. It can be up also, ups and downs. And the risks that you take. If somebody has a strong eighth house in the D2 chart, in financial matters, they will be gamblers. They will tend to gamble a lot. They can happily take a risk. So eighth house is the house of gambling, risk, investment. Of course, investment can be seen as a low-level gamble. Investment, unexpected wealth. So this is basically things that are unpredictable and sudden changes. So that is what eighth house shows. Ninth house is D2. The ninth house in D2 is the fortune and protection that you enjoy. This is basically the invisible hand of God which is sitting beside you. That is what the ninth house shows. The 10th house is the money related to activities in the society. The money related activities in society. This can be making money or spending money for the society also. Somebody may be rich and he can start a foundation for research into cancer. So that would be shown in the 10th house. The 11th house is the gains that you make, and the 12th house is the losses. And loss is, usually it has a negative connotation, but this can mean voluntarily giving up something, donating something. So this is basically letting something go. That can also be shown by the 12th house. It is basically losing something, giving up something, either voluntarily or forcibly or in any other way.
In D2, house of resources, in heart of resources, giving away is basically loss.
It can be putting them to use also. You have some money, you are temporarily giving that money to somebody so that they can invest and they can make it grow.
For example,
So temporarily,
you teach,
But that is not in
no. Others get benefit. You also get money out of teaching.
Yeah.
But you are giving away something. Then
but that would not be shown by the 12th house in Hora. That would be shown by the 12th house in D24. Because D24 is the chart of intelligence and knowledge. In that chart, if you look at the 12th house of giving, whatever I am doing right now is giving you some knowledge. Whatever little I know, I am giving it to you. So this is shown by the 12th house in D24, the chart of learning. But here we are talking about D2, the chart of resources, money, etc. So in this chart, the 12th house would show putting money to use. If you lose the money, again somebody else got that money and they are putting it to use. Or if you voluntarily give the money, you are putting it to use. So it can be either voluntary or it can be involuntary, but it's basically letting some money go. These were the houses from Lagna, the rising sign, the ascendant. On the other hand, the Arudha Lagna, the houses from it, they show basically perceptions of people. The first house will show not the true self, but the image and status in the world as far as money matters are concerned. The second house is how resourceful you appear to the world. You may not be really resourceful, but when the world sees you, for some reason, they may get the impression that you are a very resourceful person. If I ask that person, he can get it done for me. That the world may get that image when they look at that person. And they may get cheated because of that also. And sometimes it may work also, but this is basically the image of the world relation to your resources. So this is how resourceful you appear to the world. Third house from Arudha Lagna is the apparent initiative and enterprise, how enterprising you seem to the world. Fourth house from A4 AL is, the fourth house from Arudha Lagna is the apparent activity. Okay, actually this is a little more complicated, so I'll do it a little later. But let us jump to the Arudha Pada. So there are three aspects of any house. One is the house from Lagna, which is a qualification of your true self, the resources of the true self, the comfort of the true self, the abilities of the true self, etc. Various houses stand for various meanings, and houses from Lagna are the true self qualifications of true self. And the houses from Arudha Lagna are qualifications of the perceived self. How happy you are perceived to be, how resourceful you are perceived to be, etc. And on the other hand, if you look at the Arudha Padas of houses, this is the third angle. These are the tangible aspects of the houses. Arudha Lagna is overall image. A2 is the actual wealth you have, the bank balance that you have, etc. A3 is the actual enterprise and business venture that you have. A3 will show, A3 and A2 can show an investment. Somebody, a rich man, if he started a company, if he founded a company, if he invested $2 million and founded a company, that would be seen in A3 because it is a manifestation, it is a tangible manifestation of the enterprise of the person. The third house only shows how enterprising he is. It doesn't show actual company that he started. But A3, the Arudha Pada of the third house, is the tangible manifestation of that. It is an actual company that he started. A4 is again an indicator of comfort. A5 is an event that establishes the person's earning ability. This is an actual tangible event. For example, somebody may have only $1 billion, but he may want to take up a project of buying a company that requires 20 billion. So he may get together with several other people, and he may raise those $20 billion. So this particular event of that person raising $20 billion to buy a particular company, it's a tangible event. The whole world knows about it. It's not an intangible inside the person. It is a tangible that the whole world can see. And based on it, in future, people are going to form their impression about how capable he is. So A5 would be showing it, because this is a tangible event which reflects upon one's ability. So A5 is the tangible events relating to abilities. A6 is the service that you do to generate sources, either for you or for the world. And A7 is a tangible partnership and a tangible partner. So I may partner with, for example, I may partner with a particular organization called Asha Vidya Gurukulam and do some work with them. So that is a tangible partnership. So that would be shown by A7. And similarly, A8 would show a risk that somebody took. When I talked about 8th house, I said 8th house shows taking risk. But that is again internal. What is risk? I may perceive something as risk. In my mind, a particular thing may be a risk. But in the minds of people around me, it may not be a risk. People may say, oh, that's a very safe investment. But in my mind, it may be a risk. So from the Lagna, the 8th house is what I truly feel, what I truly experience. So from that point of view, it may be a risk. But from the point of view of AL, Arudha Lagna, it may not be a risk. But all those are again perception. But when you talk about the real thing, I may invest money in a particular company. A company may be struggling, they may have filed for bankruptcy, and I may see lot of potential in that company, and I may want to revive that company, and I may put $3 million in that company. So that particular investment of $3 million, it's a tangible thing. You are not talking about my impression or world's impression. The actual thing that I did on the ground, that's a tangible. So again, like I said, all the Arudha Padas show tangibles. So this is a tangible financial risk. And also, 8th house is, like I said, ups and downs, sudden changes. So when you see AA, it can be a sudden, unexpected money that comes to me. Suddenly I may inherit $5 million. Or, suddenly everything may be going well, but suddenly I may lose $8 million. Something may have happened in my business, and for some reason that I did not expect, I lost some money, sudden loss. So A8 will show some sudden changes in the financial situation. Similarly, A9 will show events making one look fortunate. Like I said, 9th house is the invisible hand of God, which is guiding you, which is safeguarding you. So that is, the A9 will show events establishing that invisible hand of God, events that establish your fortune. Similarly, A10 is the activities in society relating to money, and A11 is the tangible profit that you made, and UL is a tangible loss. Suppose, let me give an example of, or maybe I can just open it here. Can I open it here? No, I can't. Okay, let me just open the chart. This chart belongs to Ramakrishna Dalmia, a big industrialist in pre-independence India. He owned insurance companies, he was a media magnate, he owned a newspaper chain, he owned coal mines, he owned one of the first airline industries in India, he owned a bank, he owned a lot of industries. He owned the first cane sugar mill that was established by an Indian in India. He was a very successful Indian industrialist. And this was one of the examples I discussed in the class. Pardon me?
What is the data?
The data is April 7, 1893, 9:31 a.m. local mean time. They didn't have a standard time at that time. So the local mean time was used, which is 5 hours, 3 minutes, 40 seconds east of GMT. And the place is Jamnagar, India, 85 degrees, 55 minutes east, 20 degrees, 56 minutes north. Those are the longitude and latitude of the place. So if you look at the D2 chart, look at UL. When you look at any divisional chart, the Karyesha of the divisional chart is very important. For example, the Dasamsa, look at the 10th Lord of the Rashi chart. He shows the actual work. The 9th Lord of the Navamsa chart, he shows your Dharma. So like that, there is a Karyesha for every divisional chart. For Hora, who is the Karyesha? Second Lord of the Rashi chart. So if you look at second Lord of the Rashi chart, it is Mercury. His strength in the Hora chart is important for overall financial success. And that Mercury is in third house of initiative. And for Mercury, third house is a good house. For Jupiter, it's not a good house. For Malefic, it's a good house. But for Mercury, third house is a good house. So the Karyesha is in the third house of initiative. So as far as financial matters is concerned, this person is a person with strong initiative, strong drive. And from Arudha Lagna, which is even more important, Mercury is in fifth house, which is a trine. So this person is a very capable person, or this person is seen to be a very capable person. Okay? And now the point I wanted to make is relating to UL. That planet is in UL. So what kind of a person is he? Mercury shows his overall resources because he is the second lord in Rashi chart. His physical resources are shown by Mercury. And he is in UL in their Hora chart. So what that shows is, this person will be always losing money. UL means losing money. Or in other words, this person will be always investing money. He doesn't keep the money, he keeps rotating the money. UL doesn't necessarily show losing money, but it shows rotating money also. UL is basically investing money, letting money go. Whenever money comes to him, he doesn't put it in his locker and lock it. He puts it back in something else. So that's what. And also look at the relationship between UL and AL. Because UL shows your investments or you are losing money. AL shows your gain. If UL is well placed from the AL, whatever money you are losing, it will make you look good. If UL is in a bad house from AL, when you lose some money, you look bad because of losing money. But here UL is in fifth from AL. So when this person loses money, he looks good because it's a trine from Arudha Lagna. So in his case, it's not losing money, but it is investing money. He's seen as a very capable investor. And also look at GL. The Karyesha Mercury is in GL. So that means, what does it mean? It's a very powerful person. In financial matters, he is a very powerful person. He has access to big political leaders, influential people in the society. And can you say that if Gemini Dasha ran, let's say in Cancer Dasha, he was a normal person. He was a normal. Pardon me?
HL is more important for money.
Yes, HL is also important.
And it is basic, so does it mean that he has a lot of...
When it comes to money, he has a lot of enemies and a lot of obstacles to overcome. But what I am seeing is, I am seeing the links of Karyesha with HL, GL, Lagna and Arudha Lagna. With various Lagnas, I am seeing the links of Mercury. So overall, this is a very successful person who invests money a lot, and he seems to be a very capable person, and he is a very influential person. Those are what you can say. And if you want to quickly judge the Dasha, Cancer Dasha, his career started actually. His financial career started, and he worked very hard in that Dasha. In Gemini Dasha, he started making a lot of money, and he started forming partnerships and forming companies, etc. And that's because A7 is there. And Gemini is after all aspected by GL and aspected by Mercury. And it's the 11th from AL. So Gemini and Virgo are very important dashas for him. And what about Virgo? This is the second from Arudha Lagna. So this shows how resourceful he appears to the world. And Saturn is a very good planet here. Why? From Libra Lagna, he is Yogaraka. Pardon me? Hardworking, but not only hardworking. We have to see from Lagna, is Saturn a good planet or bad planet? From Libra, he is a Yogakaraka. So such a strong planet being in the second from Arudha Lagna makes the world see that his resources are Saturnine. What does Saturn show? Like you said, hardworking, but he also shows industries. All the old-fashioned, old world industries are shown by Saturn. So Saturn being in the second from Arudha Lagna makes the world see him as a industrialist. They make the world see industries as a resource for him. He was a lead miner. Yes, he was a lead miner. World saw him as a lead miner. That's what Saturn did. So Gemini Dasha was very important for him. He rose in that Dasha. He started a cane sugar company in that period. He bought a bank. Yes, he had a cement factory. That was in Libra Dasha. He started a cement factory in Libra Dasha and Virgo Dasha. These Dashas, Gemini, Libra and Virgo, were the most auspicious Dashas. He rose from nobody to the most, not the most, but one of the most successful industrialists of India. And Virgo was the peak of his career. And in Taurus, what would you expect? Would you expect his luck to continue in Taurus Dasha, or would you expect some problem? Which house is Taurus from Lagna? It is the 8th house. And who is in that house? 7th Lord. 2nd and 7th Lord is a killer. 2nd and 7th house are the houses of death. So 2nd and 7th Lord, a killer planet, a Maraka planet, he is in the 8th house of longevity. So what is the normal result? Had it been Rashi chart, the physical chart, what would be the result in that Dasha? Death. He may leave the world. And this is not the chart of physical existence. This is the chart of resources, money. So what is the result? His financial life may suffer a death blow. It may die or not, but it will suffer a death blow. So this is an inauspicious Dasha. If you knew this person earlier, and if he was a rich person, very happy, proud person, and if he came to you and showed the chart, you should tell him, during this period there is a chance of a problem. Don't take too many risks, take it easy. And also another thing, look from Arudha Lagna, because that is the image of the world. From AL, this is the 10th house. Is that good or bad? Well, it depends on who is there. If a malefic planet is in the 10th from Arudha, is it good? It's not good. What kind of image would it give? World would have the image. 10th house from Arudha Lagna controls the image world has of your activity. And what kind of activities Mars will give? War. So the world will see you as a warrior. The world sees the person as a warrior in the matter of finances. So world will see him as extremely aggressive, unreasonably aggressive, and that will be the downfall. Because from Lagna he is in Marakasthana. So combining both, that is how his death occurs. And you know what happened in that period? As soon as that period happened, Taurus Dasha was from 51 to 62. India already got independence by then, and Nehru became the Prime Minister of India, and there was a lot of friction between Nehru and Dalmia. He, in his magazine, in his newspaper, I think Times of India, he had one very popular newspaper. He wrote editorials and news coverage criticizing Nehru. At that time in India, all newspapers were praising Nehru. Oh, you are God. Nehru is great. And this guy went against Nehru, Dalmia. And then Nehru became mad. And behind the scenes, a lot of politics happened. And he was accused of improprieties in his insurance business. And he was incarcerated. He went to prison during this period. Until then, until this Dasha started, he was one of the most successful industrialists in India. And in this period, he went to jail. He was imprisoned. Why? Because there is a clear Dasha change. And government took over a lot of his companies. And then his children, they took over a lot of companies. And he died a broken man. He came out of prison later, but he died a broken man. And literally, this particular Dasha caused death in his financial life, and near death. And that was very clear from this Dasha. Right? So look at some more examples. Take some examples of it. For example, Bill Gates. Look at what Dasha he was running, what Dasha he is running right now, and try to make some predictions. If you have any doubts, we will take that example in the next class. But all this came because I wanted to answer your simple question. Do you look at only second house in D2? No. You look at all the houses because... Pardon me?
You started with some newer question.
Yeah, actually that also started with his basic question. Do you look at only second house, and then I opened the presentation. See, for example, 7th Lord in 8th house bringing death. I saw that even in Hora chart. In this case, it brought death in financial matters. So it's not that there is only one house in each divisional chart. All the 12 houses have meanings in all the at all the harmonic levels. But the meanings are different. The death in career is different. The death in physical domain is different. The death in financial matters is different. The death in intellectual matters is different. So in all, various divisional charts show various levels of existence, and all houses have a meaning in all levels of existence. If you understand the basic meaning, you can derive all the detailed meanings from it. So with that, I will end for today. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So another example similar to that.